I was asked on a previous podcast, what's the best book I've ever read, right? Oh, Doug, you've written a bunch, you've read a bunch. What's the best book? Give me that one. And my answer is very clear. The best book you'll ever read is the one that you write.
Learn how CEOs can write best-selling books to grow their business. Winning with Doug Crowe, founder of Author Your Brand, on today's episode of the Executive Wins Podcast. Welcome to the Executive Wins Podcast, where senior leaders share their biggest wins so you can get inspired and grow your business. Here's your host, Gordon Shepherd. Welcome to the award-winning Executive Wins Podcast. I'm your host, Gordon Shepherd. Today, we are lucky to be joined by Doug Crowe, founder of Author Your Brand, helping C-level leaders write impactful books that actually move their business forward. Visit authoryourbrand.com to learn more. That's authoryourbrand.com. On this episode, you'll learn how Doug helps senior leaders become the author of their own nonfiction books by going through his reverse spotlight method. This means that he actually helps you start the marketing at the same time that you start writing the book, so that by the time it's published, you are already booking engagements, gaining new clients, and putting that book to work to build your business. You'll also find out about Doug's genuine curiosity and how that helps him and his team get the best out of every executive that they work with. In addition, Doug shares stories about his unique and humble clients, from high-impact leaders to billionaires. This episode is must-listen for any leader who really wants to know how to publish a book that will actually make a real impact. I also want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by our leadership team workshop called Turning Losses into Wins: How Great Leaders Turn Setbacks into Strategic Advantages. In this hands-on workshop, leaders learn a proven 5-step system called the anatomy of a loss to help everyone on your team understand what went wrong in terms of strategy, work plan, people, operations, and results. This approach is valuable because it objectively sets a psychologically safe way to talk about mistakes, which makes it about why the organization failed instead of pointing the finger at one person. Imagine what would happen if every leader on your team felt confident to fully explain a setback, so that you could all take ownership and use what you've learned to turn a loss into a strategic advantage. To learn more, visit executivewins.com/training or get in touch with me directly at gord@executivewins.com. That's gord@executivewins.com. I also want to say thanks to you, because the Executive Wins podcast now has more than 53,000 views and over 500 hours of watch time on YouTube, along with more than 2,300 audio downloads on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen. And of course, I am so grateful that the show won the Best New Podcast Award in the Quill Podcasting Awards in its first year of production. I also want to remind you that this interview follows a specific format that I created called the Anatomy of a Win to help you learn the strategy, work plan, people, operations, and results behind every business win that you hear on this show. I hope that you can use this approach to make your next breakthrough in business. And now here's Doug Crowe with his executive win. Doug, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, we are just so lucky to have you here. And there were sort of 3 C's that struck me from our pre-interview that I need to bring up here that I would describe from having had a chance to meet you a little bit. And that is, one, you help leaders communicate at a significantly higher level in so many different ways. Another thing that you do is you build community, where
Mhm.
leaders can succeed. And then you build capacity through those ventures. And you've helped so many different people. And you have so many great stories about the way that you've done that by combining your decades of experience leading into where you are now. So there's a lot of this is just going to be a terrific interview, I know, coming up, but a lot of people haven't met you yet. So if you had to describe yourself, what would you say?
Oh my gosh, I am a lighthearted, creative, problem-solving people person. How's that for a whipping some adjectives together?
I think it's a whipping sense, but there's also a sense of trying to get a feel for what your current venture is. So
Yeah.
when did your current venture kind of start, and why did you start it, and what are you doing in your current venture?
All right. Well, I started out. I went to school at Northwestern for radio, TV, and film, and you know, worked at his TV studio and interviewed. I was an interviewer. I was a lighting guy, but I met Robert Allen from the No Money Down days back in the decades ago. Was enthralled with the concept of real estate investing and got involved with that business for 20 some years. Um, 2008, of course, changed my trajectory quite a bit on that. Those of you who are around for that understand that was kind of a traumatic moment for a lot of people. And during my little boohoo phase with 19 foreclosures, bankruptcy, divorce, clinical depression, I decided to write a book, and the book was awful. I mean, it was just so bad. I couldn't publish it, but I did have the thought, like, I had some pretty famous people on my radio show. I had a radio show for a couple of years on WLS, and I had Laurel Langmeyer on, Robert Kiyosaki, and I spoke with them afterwards. I'm like, how'd you guys get this book thing done? And Robert said, I'm a best-selling author. I'm not a best-selling writer. And to me, that was like, code for ghostwriting. So over the years, we've been refining and developing our ghostwriting process for leaders and C-suite executives to really be a nice combination of journalism, ghostwriting, developmental editing, and now most recently, distribution to the very, very high levels before the book is even written. So that's a shortened version. I've got a 10-minute version. That's my 1-minute version for you.
Well, I appreciate that. And thank you for putting the effort into getting it done, because I
Yeah.
think what strikes me in the work that I do with leaders, having interviewed 60 plus leaders on
Mhm.
this podcast and having
Yeah.
met, worked with people directly in the work that I do, they're not great at expressing themselves. They're genius.
Yeah.
Right. But you're the one. What is the secret sauce then where you can help them kind of, if we say, get it on the page,
Yeah.
express themselves? What are you doing to help them do that?
Here's the key. This might summarize the whole thing, but expressing yourself only works when someone is interested in you. And the key that I unlocked, everything that we do now has nothing to do. Sorry, clients, if you're listening to this, but it's nothing to do with you. It has to do with your ICP or your channel partners or who you're speaking with. So we have a very, very defined process called the reverse spotlight method, where our clients are featuring their value proposition, their ideas in a book, but it's never just them by themselves talking about themselves, because quite frankly, nobody cares, right? So our process is, one of my friends described it very simply. He said, you ever try to pour coffee in a thermos with the lid still screwed on it? Doesn't work very well. Our job is to unscrew that lid and then pour the coffee in. That's the way it stays warm, right? So most people in the entire world of marketing, I'm talking social media, email, podcast, TV, radio, magazines, the works. It's all about what they call it, the attention economy now, right? I need attention. And Gordon, I'm no math genius, but AI is making the content game so horrible that there's way too much content already. Now there's 10 times more, and I still have 8 hours a day or 12 hours because I'm an entrepreneur. That means, mathematically speaking, everyone's getting less attention. So the whole process that we do is called reverse spotlight. We put the attention on our client's client. That's it. That means the
And
content, the ideas, the whole thing. Yeah.
And it gets
Yeah.
it gets the interested thing. You're taking me back. I was in acting school a long time ago,
Yeah.
and someone said the most interesting people are those who are interested.
Yes. Yes.
Right, as sort of a catch on to
Mhm.
that phrase there.
Yeah.
Now you're able to then not just have people blather on where they're not going to be heard in all the noise, but you're
Mhm.
able to focus with your reverse spotlight approach,
Yep.
which you would have honed in and worked on over the years,
Yeah.
to allow them to create something that people want to read.
Mhm. Mhm. And not just read, but connect with you. It's one thing to read a story or it's reading a monologue. I'm really interested in dialogues, which is tough to do with content because normally it's just somebody talking about something. And they use the word engage and whatnot. That's fine, depending on what the content is, whether it's a short form, the text. But having an actual dialogue with a human being is what makes us human. So that's what revolves around my TEDx talk in terms of AI. But is that conversation meaningful? Is it useful? Is it slightly entertaining? Which revolves back around our publishing area of ghostwriting books for people. It's got to be interesting, useful, and entertaining. Just one of those doesn't work. Two, maybe. But if you're all three, man, you're going to nail it. So we translate the book process of being interesting, useful, entertaining into our communication process and developing our channel partnerships, which has to happen way earlier than most people do. Most people think about distributing their book after it's written. You got to do it way earlier than that if you want to be successful with it.
I love it. And so this is what's nice is if I was working with you in a sense, I would have a responsible methodology that you're not going to veer away from. Because I'm not going to say, oh, no, I'm going to write the book first. And then, because I can hear you would be able to coach the process to success as opposed to letting people get into their own rabbit holes. Is that fair?
Most of the time. Sometimes there's a memoir, somebody's really adamant about it, and I'm going to go ahead and let them go. But if they have a clear intention, clear purpose, an outcome they want, like, why are you spending all this time and money writing a book? What do you want to get out of it? If they've got a clear answer that revolves around, acquisition, M&A, more clients, scaling, we got a great conversation. If it's just a memoir and we've done a few of those, then you don't need all that. Then we can have it as a smaller project. Let's go and get your story, gestate it and really develop it so it's interesting to your family, grandkids, or even your great grandkids and all that stuff.
So you can handle sort of it, but again, it's the minority of your work is in that memoir airspace. But in the meantime, the majority is in getting people successfully out to whatever there's. Is there an example that you like to? I'm sure there's dozens or hundreds or whatever it is. Is there one that you can tell to put some meat on the bones here?
Yeah, there's a recent one. A really wonderful gal came to us last year, Anita Greenland. She wrote a book on sales resiliency, and she's a sales trainer. We love that, and she's also big into yoga. And so about resiliency, it's about the idea salespeople get burnout, but if you take care of your mind, body, spirit, attitude, not just your words, but your body as well, and makes you a more resilient salesperson. Nice. Anita, guess what? There are, 10,000 books on sales coming out this year. It's an interesting differentiator, but it's not going to be enough to have you get anything out of it. So I told her our reverse spotlight method, you can take your ideas, but let's incorporate your clients in your book. Let's take, I don't know, I think we talked about 6 to 8 current clients. And then I said, I also want us to interview the whales, the ideal, that we'll call it like a Dream 100. Let's get a dozen of those and do not approach them about selling your book. Just we'll interview them as a participant. Instead of looking at your readers as users, I hate that term, or readers even, I call them collaborators. I'm working on this chapter on this X idea. Hey, can you have any stories for me? You have any ideas on that? Get some feedback, get a dialogue going. So the meat and the bone. We're interviewing her current clients. We interview 6 to 8 potential big ones. While we're building the book, while we're doing it, 2 keynotes and executive coaching land in her lap for close to 20 grand. The week the book came out, she got approached by one of the prospects. The week it came out, hey, we'd like to hire you. Oh, that's great. I'm a sales consultant. What do you need? No, we want to hire you. Like, what do you mean? Like full time? I'm an independent consultant. Thank you so much, but I'm not interested. They came back a week later. We'll give you 150% of whatever you made last year if you work just with us. She's like, it's attractive, but I want my autonomy right now. All right. They call back again, a third time. Her husband says, take the meeting. She sit down, go through it. Tell you what, Nita, you can keep speaking, doing what you're doing that. We want you full-time with us. We'll pay you 200% of what you made last year, retirement and benefits. She's like, well, man, I'm 57. I don't want to do this forever. Okay. So imagine taking all this time and energy, having the book being pretty much self-funding while it's being built, because she picked up some keynotes and executive coaching. And then the month it came out, doubles her annual income with one client.
This is remarkable.
Yeah.
I can tell you in my own past, I went through the agonizing self-publishing route without getting help. And I launched that thing and then the traction took 2 years and 3 years easily. Like there was no instant gratitude for that, but there was my 6 months of hard work and putting something together that did evolve into a lot of in my case, it was training opportunities, but
Yeah.
boy, what a silly when I
Mhm.
wish I'd met you earlier
Same here.
because that idea of the book doesn't start with finishing the book and getting it out the door. The book starts way earlier, and your
Right.
collaborative thing is reflective of what so many of the leaders on this podcast have talked about in
Mhm.
terms of the best scenarios where they are working collaboratively with their clients instead of
Right.
producing their widget
Mhm.
and then taking it to market. They're working with their clients along the way,
Yeah.
and there's just so many good so the fact that you've
Mhm.
got it there with I'm gonna say tone to
Mhm.
guide people into your process because you know it's gonna work. You've actually proved the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
You're making it
Mhm.
happen. It leads to our first, this is awesome. It leads to our first question, which is if you had to describe one of your biggest wins then in your work over the years,
Yeah.
what would that win be, and how would you describe it?
Yeah. Anita's most recent one, I guess the other one it's always fun because when you ever meet like a high profile person, it's always kind of a celebrity type stuff. It's even better when they have no ego. So one of a person I met through my method of focusing on other people, right? Sometimes doesn't take the form of a book. Sometimes it's just how I operate on LinkedIn, where I'm just, hey, I like you. That's a pretty cool. I'm going to share that. No interest at all in doing business. I just do that to people that I find interesting. And you know what? 8 out of 10 times they're not clients. But this guy said, "Hey, yeah, thanks. I'm thinking about doing a book. Can I send you my resume?" Ah, sure. Pretty sure it's about 5 page resume, single spaced. And I'm like, okay, wow, this is a lot here. We've got to, unpack this book and do it well. So I'm working with him, and one of my buddies chimes in after he's taking a look at the resume and the draft goes, "Do you know who this guy is?" And I'm like, not really. And I'm starting to peel it apart a little bit. I go, oh, yeah, 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 yeah. He invented the little piece of software you've heard about. What's that, Doug? Um, GPS. He worked at NASA and invented GPS. He's basically like Forrest Gump from India. He's got such a storied background. It's hard to believe. He played with Indira Gandhi's kids. He came here with $8, became a rocket scientist, worked at NASA, JPL, also advising, obviously, CIA, NSA. And then went on to like, you know what? I've got these ideas about this thing called the internet coming out as of 96, 97. He invented the idea of printing stamps at home called stamps.com and took that public. Has done 3 other public IPOs. Stamps, by the way, got bought by a PE group a couple years ago, so he sold it twice. And we've done 5 books for him, right? So he does every year we have some project to do, and he's the most humble, delightful man I've ever met. And I just, can't say enough about him. But he turned into a business thing, turned into a friendship. And it's genuine. We both like each other. And like, he's way up here, and I'm nowhere close to being a billionaire, right? It's just, but he doesn't even use that word. He calls himself an ordinary entrepreneur.
Isn't that a wonderful insight? So through your sort of, I'm going to say, farming process of sorts,
Yeah.
you had a chance to connect with someone, and you're
Mhm,
connecting with people that
mhm,
are just sort of good at what they do,
mhm.
don't have the skill set that you have. You're able to bolt
Yeah.
that skill set. You know,
Right.
he's got, obviously, you just described your win here is
Yeah.
working with someone who has tremendous skill sets,
Yeah.
except this sort of self communication, building out
Mhm.
through your process, and now,
Yeah.
and the proof again being not one book, but multiple
Right.
opportunities from
Right.
someone who probably comes up with a new opportunity every year in terms
Oh,
of it sounds like
yeah.
what he's generating or whatever that is. That's
Yeah.
a great,
Yeah.
interesting win, in terms of one to talk about.
Mhm.
Anytime we talk about a win, we talk about, what is the anatomy of the win? So what is the
Yeah.
strategy, work plan,
Mhm.
people,
Yep.
operations, and results behind the win? And when we say strategy, there's a vision, mission, values in a sense that go
Mhm.
along with getting this type of win to occur. The
Yeah.
vision, I'm guessing we've already sort of heard a little bit. You're like, well, I don't necessarily need to do business with everybody that I meet, but I
Mhm.
want to be interested. So there's
Yes.
something about your
Yeah.
strategy or your vision or your goals.
Yeah.
What highlight from your strategy to make this win occur would you point out?
Genuine curiosity. In the mornings when I do my morning walk and stuff, I'm looking at Instagram, YouTube videos that have nothing to do with my business. Nothing, absolutely not. I study science, physics, art, woodworking. I mean, everything. I have a insane thirst for learning anything about anything. It's just, and that spills over into LinkedIn and my family and my friends and my business connections. And like I say, a lot of my business connections, I have no I might have done a book for them. I had one gal, Olympic coach. She's trained in the women's basketball team. And she's already been doing these compilation books, Gordon, where she put like 10, 12 authors in a book and publishes it to promote them a little bit and herself. Works pretty well. And we got in a call a couple years ago, and she's investigating doing a solo book for herself. Like, all right, that's good. And I talked to her about how it's going and with their current process and adding this new one on with the investment required and the results and the timeline. And after about 15, 20 minutes, I said to her, hey, Sherry, you've got a good thing going on there. Do you have the bandwidth to do another one, or you want to just transfer it? Probably try to do both. Like, sounds like what you've got going on right now is working. Why don't you just keep doing that? And she said, okay. I said, by the way, let me just send you a PDF on some publishing thing that might help you a little bit. But I didn't talk myself out of a deal. I served a human being's needs authentically with what she actually needed. She didn't need a solo book. It wasn't necessary. It's not always necessary. 2 years later, I get a call from a guy in New Hampshire. Hey, Doug, this is Richard. Sherry said I should talk to you about doing a book. There's a $36,000 deal. So another year or two passed by. Another guy comes up, an $18 billion company, and asks to do a book. Sherry told me to call you. So
And
I
all
got
all from genuine curiosity.
genuine curiosity and service.
Yeah.
I sent her a PDF.
No, but you can hear when you say the genuine curiosity thing, that's at the root of the whole thing. Like,
Yeah.
and funny enough, that's unusual in today's world.
Yeah.
Honestly,
People
like that thing of somebody actually,
Yeah.
You're doing it with me now. You're dialing in, you're listening, you're reading me in this call. I can see it. So I can see that when you meet these people, and not everybody has that skill set or interest to make that happen. But not only do you get to be genuine, you're curious, it also is driving your business as well. So when we think about strategically pulling things together to get wins to occur, that makes total sense. Anytime we have a strategy, we need a work plan. Now, it sounds like your work plan isn't necessarily always on a rigid timeline. There's sort of a starting and there's an ideation or a planting of seeds of sorts.
Right.
And then timelines could be, I'm sure, very rapid turnaround, or they could be, like you said, multi-year. Is there anything you would comment in terms of work plan to make some of these things get into action?
I usually ask the client what their plan is, right? Hey, how soon you need this? During there's been some event-based productions that we needed to be in line with. But most of the time, there's no timeline. It's whatever works for them in terms of their operating schedule. The worst one was one of my clients was a former VP of Fuji, and she had retired, but still stayed in touch, consulting a little bit. And we did a book for her. It's called Short Woman, Tall Order, because she's a short woman, but she's a powerhouse. We spent a good, year or so building this thing out, publishing it, getting it all ready to go. She gets a call from Fuji in November saying, hey, you're going to be at CES speaking. Yes, I am. Please bring your book. Like, great, no problem. How many copies you want? Well, the book is about social media. So she says, wait, hold, what? They mentioned a different title that she had mentioned in passing through one of her conversations with them. It wasn't the book that we had produced. There was a new one she was thinking about doing. We want you to bring that book to CES in for like 44 days. And true to form from most salespeople, is like, okay, no problem, we'll do that. She calls me up in a panic. Hey, thanks for doing that first book. We got to have another one done in the next month and a half, a little less than a month and a half. I said, that means you're going to be on the phone with me every single day. So the world record for me is producing a full-size thought leadership book, quality, good stories, value proposition, hooks, character, everything in 44 days. That's horrible. We generally take, 6 months. And of course, a few people have taken a couple of years to do it. So it's just their different agenda.
I can't imagine. I remember sort of my own process, just getting 30,000 words down was 6 months, because it wasn't even, it was just sort of the thoughtfulness that went with it, go back and think and back, right? But 44 days, incredible, or multi-year. So again, your strategy, genuine interest, the timelines and work plans can fluctuate depending on the client capacity and whatever those circumstances are. Anytime, we have this strategy and work plan, we always need people to make a win happen. How would you describe your attitude in making this type of win happen? You talked about your genuine curiosity, and is it sort of peaks and valleys when you work with somebody, or is it nice, easy sailing?
Well, come on. There's always a little wind blowing here and there, or a tsunami. But in terms of people, I could talk about my team and I talk about my clients, right? There's two different types of people here because they're all kind of necessary to be successful. On my team side, I have gone through. I probably have interviewed well over 500 ghostwriters, and there's a personality side and a tactical side and a strategic side for a human being. So personality wise, the worst one, the guy, like, he wouldn't get on a Zoom call with me, or at the time maybe a Skype call. So I don't talk. I just write. Like, well, that's great. I saw your samples. You're a good writer, but I need to have a conversation. Oh, I don't do that. Like, okay, that takes the whole reclusive writer thing to a new level, right? Like, not going to work for me. Sometimes I've had people who are like, they're Hollywood screenwriters, very good, very, very expensive. The highest quote I got was $300,000 to ghostwrite a book. The lowest was $500. And I'm looking at the quality of these samples from 500 to 300 grand. And right around the 15 to 20,000 mark, it's like, you know what? There's no difference between that upstream. Downstream, yeah, you can see it, but right around the 15, 20, I'm like, that's pretty good. A couple 25ers there. I'm like, but other than that, it's just like I don't charge a billionaire any more than I charge a $250,000 a year consultant. They get the same fee structure. So ghostwriters are artists. So they have to be very good at storytelling. And what they're not always good at is interviewing people. So generally, there's two functions. There's an exception now because I've been a writer and a reader for my whole life. So I've done plenty of journalistic interviews. And then my absolute best ghostwriter, it sounds like nepotism, but it's my son, because he's able to he has corporate experience and writing, and he's brilliant. He's able to communicate with my clients and really get deep into their stuff, as well as articulate it in a better way than they could in print. Operationally, I've got, great people doing the production side. On the client side, I'll tell you what works best for our company or for your audience. You want to find people who are not necessarily your personality or beliefs, but align with your values. That's like an Adam Grant thing. I mean, if we have the same values of respecting each other's time, like, I'm not going to talk to you on a Sunday night type of thing, or hey, when you got when you got feedback for me, it should be constructive criticism, not just criticism, right? Because you can't say I hate it without telling me why. You can say my baby's ugly, but you got to give me what is it about that is ugly so I can fix it. So there's some things set up for my client side that have to work. And I apologize for going negative, but the only people I don't work well with are like active surgeons or physicians. They're just not a good fit because of reasons. So
Yeah, and so isn't that lucky that you've spent the time to be genuinely interested not
yeah.
only in the clients that you're dealing with, but
Yeah.
also in the people that you're hiring in
Oh yeah.
to get these processes done. You're able
Mm-hmm.
to oversee the thing, and also you're giving us insights into what does it take. And
Yeah.
that's fun to hear about. It's funny having worked with a bunch of people in the freelance world around the world,
Yeah.
and it's the hourly rates don't have a lot to do with quality. A lot of it is what is their dedication to the craft, whatever that
Yeah.
is, and are they willing to sort of put in the work and do the thing. And it's funny, it's interesting to hear your understanding around
Yeah.
price points and dialing that in. And then we've heard your attitude towards this thing as well. And then also the your son's ability to help people
Oh,
articulate themselves better than they can themselves.
yes.
That is like gold. That is
It is.
absolute genius, because so many
Uh-huh.
leaders I know that I meet can't articulate a win.
Yeah.
They don't know how to do it. They've got plenty of wins. They've got but the
When I
world,
moved him over into those roles, I was on some of the first calls, and we had an Inc. 5000 three-time award winner, just brilliant, brilliant person saying, I could not have written this book without you. You are so good at getting into the why, or, he's asking questions that, not rabbit holes, but like architecture and foundation of what that means to you, and how does it relate to your customer experience, and all these things. He's really good at understanding them better than themselves sometimes, because people say, I want a book, I don't know why or what. And he's able to pull that through.
well, and getting back to capacity building, when your
Yeah.
son or you does that
Mhm.
process with these
Mhm.
people, their
Yeah.
best parts, their best genius gets out in the world at a
Yeah.
wider level. And
Right.
again, there's all kinds of good things that would occur from that, whether it was them gaining new insights, inventing things, or whatever.
Yeah.
They would be able to hear
Mhm.
themselves at a better level. Wow, strategy, work
Yeah.
plan, people.
Right.
Operationally, we've heard quite a bit about your operational ability. So
Right.
you come into my system in a sense,
Uh-huh.
and we're able to get you doing the pre-work along the way. We've got some steps where we're interacting not only with your clients, but also some other people that might be down the road for what that looks
Mhm.
like. We want to
Yeah.
be then co-creating this book with a values-driven approach that you've said.
Mhm.
It moves towards this publishing date, and then you've got that post-publishing piece as well. Anything else you'd like to
Mhm.
say about the operation
Sure.
part of
On
this?
the I gotta give kudos to my Philippine team because like a lot of people try to outsource overseas, there's always cultural nuances there. And I learned way, way long ago that my values were not the same as theirs. I'll give you a quick story on that. Well, the first guy I hired um, did a small project for me, hired him for a second one, and each time I increased the complexity of it. By the time I gave him a third one to do, he said yes and then ghosted me, like gone. And about 3 months later, he pops up again on the internet. I'm like, "Hey, what happened to you?" "Oh, Doug, I'm so sorry. I was just so embarrassed. I couldn't do that. I was too embarrassed to tell you." What? It's a- you understand Asian culture, Doug. It was embarrassment is worse than failure. And I said I spent some time in Japan. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize that was not just Japan, but everywhere else. I said, okay, I'll tell you what. I will learn and embrace your culture on one condition. Yes, what is it? You got to do the same with me. You got to learn my culture. So he learned to, bring things up and not be afraid. And it's okay to fail, make mistakes. Just don't make the same mistake twice, and communicate better. So that's one thing I learned there. And then almost right away, I can't stand the hourly time clock thing. I had the whole, you log in and look at people's screens, and that doesn't always work because I've caught people, having two screens and doing stuff and playing games and all that. So forget it. But if you interview well and know the culture, everyone's on salary and even some output based bonuses. So I've been fortunate to have a wonderful team working with me for the past 15 years that they just
Well,
they
and you
get
can hear what it takes to dial it in. And didn't we just hear 15 years? I tried somebody, it didn't work out. Then I had to
Mhm.
learn culture. Then we had so when we talk about operationalizing something, look at
Yeah.
it's not just like writing the book, right? There's
Mm-mm.
so many components to this. And you
Yeah.
thankfully, we're getting lucky to hear, get the inside scoop on your
Yeah.
process, but you've earned
Mhm.
that because you've put in the work and it's not easy to replicate what you're doing. You've created a moat around your process and your own individual approach and this team that
Yeah.
creates a high value, and you're delivering on that
Mhm.
high value. So
Yeah.
strategy, work plan, people, operations. Finally, there's results. There's quantitative results, qualitative results.
Mhm.
Quantitatively, you could tell me about number of books written. You could tell me
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
number sold, number
Yeah.
clients reached. Any quantitative highlights that you'd like to point out about this?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing, but I would say that most people may or may not know this, but books don't make money. It's like they to go into the process of crafting a well thought well positioned book that sells for $20. I mean, to make anything significant, you have to sell tens of thousands of copies. And most nonfiction authors that I've worked with, they kind of understand that. So I say, listen, you're going to make money because of your book, not from it. But not just because you've got the book anymore. I mean, years ago, maybe, "Oh, I'm an author, you can speak now." No. You've gotta be well positioned to make that happen for yourself. That's why we embed the ideal channel partners, not just clients, but channel partners in the process. So when the book comes out, you can expect 10,000 copies on desks of people. They may or may not be free or paid. It doesn't really matter at that point because if it's, most of my clients doing high value operations and consulting, whatnot. So, the one guy, gosh, quantitatively, he called me up. He wanted to do a book about his company. So, what do you do? I write software for digital displays. And you can probably tell I don't accept everybody. I'm about to not hang up. I'm about to say I'm telling him to go elsewhere. I'm like, well, Dave, that's interesting, maybe, but can you tell me a story about digital displays? Because the book has to be visual, and software is not that visual. He tells me a story about looking at displays at McDonald's. And McDonald's has those little displays that say, "How did you rate the cleanliness of the restaurant today?" And you push a button in there. He said, "Guess what? The dirtiest part of the restaurant was? Was it the frying machine? Was it the bathroom? Was it the parking lot? No, the dirtiest part of the restaurant was the pad that you touched." So I said, "Dave, great story. we're going to do this, right? So we got a deal going, did his book. I called him up when it was all finished. Hey, I want to put you on a podcast, give you some PR and get going. No, I'm too busy. You just spent a bunch of money, like a lot on your book. You don't want to promote it because I'm too busy. Well, what did you do? Because I mailed it to all my 250 clients total. I got so many referrals. I can't have time for any more marketing. He sold his company 1 year later.
Oh my goodness. That
Yeah.
is a stunning, stunning
Yeah.
story. And you just happen to catch him at that right moment with the right vehicle and then the
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
consolidation of what that
Yeah.
looked like,
Yeah.
along with helping people get away from old expectations of what a
Yeah.
book should be and getting them into the reality of what it could be, along
Mhm.
with, again,
Right.
you've already told another
Yeah.
proof in the pudding story
Yeah.
already, and you've got a bunch of
Oh,
those
I got a bunch of them like
along
that.
the
Yeah.
way. That is just
Right.
stunning. I'm
And
just,
they're never about book sales is the thing. It's like, hey, I pick up a client, I sold my company. Some people, I have a couple of people sold thousands of books. One of my
yeah.
buddies that sold, he's done 5 now. And he went from his first year before he wrote his first book, he had like 4 to 5 speaking gigs. When his book came out the very first year, he had 60 speaking gigs from it and does as a solopreneur, does over 2 million a year as a solo guy.
Oh
Like,
my goodness,
okay,
I can't imagine the rates he's negotiating on those speaking engagements. That's incredible. I
yeah,
love hearing that. And the other thing I'll add in, sort of having had the experience of having written a
yeah,
book, is you're getting them to consolidate their thinking. There's a massive benefit. I
mhm,
only knew it after I got it done, to
yeah,
getting your thinking down.
yes.
Because then when you go out to a client call or when you go out to present,
Mhm,
you're way better organized in what you're doing because you've got those things at your fingertips. You're better articulated.
mhm.
There's so many good things going on. Qualitatively, then, how does this whole thing feel like when you think back on it?
The other thing that surprises me, because I've been studying marketing like you my whole life, so I look at this stuff. I'm surprised how many people don't realize the value of their content. Like, you've got a great book now. Like, let's turn it into a curriculum. Let's take it to the universities. Let's break it down into there's so many things you can do with the content. I've got a PDF that has like 35 or 37 things you can do with your book that aren't the book. Curriculum is just one of them. I mean, you can sponsor characters. You can, create your own play out of it. There's so many things you can do with the book. People don't understand the value of their content.
I love where that's going because, again, your ability to help them. There's a woman named Shafina Muhammad who runs her own family business here in
Yeah.
heavy duty machine lighting. Like
Mm.
those machines that run in oil sands and whatever, that lighting's got to work. Their company's
Yeah.
been doing it for 28 years or whatever.
Wow.
And she said, at the beginning of the interview, she said, make it easy for your customer to do business with you.
Yeah.
And she goes, I know that sounds common. And then she started to describe how she does it.
Yeah.
And mainly in the back end when nobody's looking. And she got into that, and we started to talk about that very thing. So your ability then with your 37 suggestions
Mhm.
to help people, again, not only think about their content, but also
Right.
how many other places are their content going to be so valuable for
Yeah.
people, again, like you said, from a thought leadership point of view, because so many
Right.
people that put in these decades are genius.
Yeah. One of the things we do to that end, and making it easy to do business with us recently, is a lot of people aren't ready for a full size book. I'm like, okay, well, let's just talk about what do you want to do? Would you like to? I'd like to, get into Nabisco or National Association of Chiropractic or something. I'm like, okay. So my team will go ahead and build a database of like 100 dream clients for them, names, companies, LinkedIn profile, email, phone numbers, everything. And what they'll do is what we actually do this before. We do this before a sale. We actually do this for free for people. Ready? So we'll build a database for them. I'll build a channel partnership map for them. I'll go into their profile and some of their content and create an avatar. And then I'll actually build a dashboard for them. I put these assets in the dashboard along with the first few pages of a white paper and say, here's what this can do for you. Dashboard, white paper, avatar, database. And we'll convert that into a Kindle book and an audiobook for you. And they look at all this stuff, they go, this is amazing. This gives them clarity and direction and purpose, everything. Do you want to keep going? Well, okay, let's talk about the engagement. You don't want to keep going? Okay, don't worry about it. We'll spend a week with them building their program out before we even bring up, payment structures.
That is unbelievable. Sorry,
Yeah,
what I mean to say is what I've seen also a lot of fatigue for entrepreneurs is they're being asked they know their technical thing. They can probably
yeah,
sell something,
yeah.
but they don't know what you just described. That week that you're putting in, the ability to accelerate them through that process.
Mhm,
Because when
mhm,
they're off in those seminars trying to learn out what's their avatar, who do they go for, whatever,
yeah,
and they don't have an expert like you to
mm-mm.
expedite that. But what you've said, you're taking that as sort of a moment in time just to help, like you said, be genuinely interested and win
Yeah,
them, win their business, and in a way that is such high value for them because they just don't even have that ability to think in that manner.
yeah, let me break it down here even deeper. Think about all the time and money people spend on advertising, social proof, all this stuff, persuasion, sales teams, get them to buy, all that crap. I can't stand it. So all that energy and time, what if I just go ahead and spend a couple $1,000 for free on qualified people, mind you? I'm not gonna do it for anybody, but if you're qualified, I'll do this for you because that eliminates sales pressure. It eliminates testimonials, really. And I have them, but if you want them, but it makes the process like this is I'm already working together without the money. So now I just got to just when you like it, keep going. It's
That's a great way to go. And again, for them, the impacts on the rest of their business. And there's so much noise in marketing, so
yeah.
much noise. But what you've said is we're going to consolidate your expertise.
Hmm.
That's the way we're going to help you get a win. By the way, we're not just getting you to blather, we're going to get you to get people interested in you, and we're going to
Right.
help you find
Yeah.
those pieces to be interested in you to get that win. You've got the process down, you've got the people in place and the machine to make this
Hmm.
occur, along with the proof in the pudding. Boy, it must be just easy to sleep at night and fun to get out of bed in the morning.
I don't have a lot of sales pressure anymore because I have so many people that want this. Okay, well, here you go. It's easy.
And it's at a time when I think, if we look at age and stage just of populations and the
Yeah.
loss of a lot of people going to their graves without ever getting this out, which
Yeah.
is a sad thing because we have a whole boomer sort of cohort that got to, essentially drive the world, and they just aren't making necessarily, but you're getting sort of at least a few of them to take the
I
time
am.
to get it out there in the world.
It's a sad thing when I have some stories of people that I think they'd be a great author. They really, it's great stories. This one gal, escaped an abusive relationship, and she told me stories about Army Ranger rescuing her. And I said, "Oh my gosh, this is such a beautiful story. We need to save other people for this, right?" So I put together a database for the shelters, and like, we need a two-pronged system here. We need to have the content for the women in trouble, and then a marketing area for the brothers, sisters, uncles, fathers over here, marketing here, story here. We put it together. We can save lives with this, right? Lives, not just make money. Oh, sounds good, though. Okay, I'll get back to you next week. Okay, great. We'll talk about it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll maybe do it in a few months. I said, all right. I don't try to talk her into it. It's her journey, her thing. But I'll tell you what, and I'm not mentioning names for a reason. I guarantee you some women died because she didn't write her book. And that's a harsh thing to say, but I feel like, man, that could have saved lives. And, maybe she got busy, okay, but someone's had the calling to do something about it. And it wasn't her. And it made me sad because people
I
thought,
agree with the calling side, and that's interesting, and that's a
oh,
very dramatic example, obviously, of some, what's sort of the impact that we could have. What I'm
yeah.
finding, just generally, again, even doing this podcast, is getting
Hmm.
people to articulate their wins. Now I'm putting people together that didn't know about those skills that that other person had. I've
There you
noticed that
go.
as a real trend. Like, oh, wait,
Hmm.
you're a water genius expert, and you work
Yeah.
with the city of Los Angeles, and oh, you work with the city of Toronto, and you pull. Oh, now they know each. Like, how do we get that capacity building to go
Yeah.
even further? So isn't that nice that you're not in just a sort of a profitable business, but you're in a genuinely interested area where you're, and this is,
Sure.
it'd be fun to talk to you in 5 or 10 years, because
Yeah.
as your business grows,
Hmm.
some of these impact
Hmm.
stories are going to get even more and
Oh,
more. Oh, wow.
yeah.
What a great interview. Really appreciate that you taking the time. I was going to say, anytime we get someone like you on the show, I always like a few sentences at the end, if you don't mind. If
Sure.
you were
Yeah.
speaking to that next leader who's listening to this,
Hmm.
and you had a few sentences of encouragement about why they should write their
Hmm.
book, in a sense, what would you say as a few sentences for them?
Two things. I was asked on a previous podcast, what's the best book I've ever read, right? They go, oh, Doug, you've written a bunch, you've read a bunch. What's the best book? Give me that one. And my answer is very clear. The best book you'll ever read is the one that you write.
That's a great spot to end. I could talk to you for another 5 hours. Thank you for all the great stories, your good energy, your genuine interest. Doug, thank you so much for being on the show.
You bet, Gordon.
Be genuinely curious, build the right team, and turn C-level leaders into authors who can exponentially increase their impact. That is how Doug Crowe and his team win every day. Thank you, Doug, for your inspiring win. Now, if you enjoyed listening to this episode, then make sure to check out our upcoming episodes, which include how saying yes at the right time helped this serial entrepreneur grow many profitable businesses. Winning with Matt Obin, CEO of Keen Creative. And if you want to learn how Executive Wins services like coaching, training, and facilitation can help to align your leadership team so they can get more profitable results, then visit executivewins.com to learn how. You can also subscribe to the Executive Wins newsletter to stay up to date on the podcast, live events, education opportunities, and more. Visit executivewins.com/newsletter to sign up. And if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe, and share it with a fellow leader. And don't forget to check out our resources and links in the show notes. And keep listening to the Executive Wins podcast for more inspiring wins that will help you to grow yourself, your team, and your entire business. Thanks for listening to the Executive Wins podcast. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe as we bring you more inspiring wins from outstanding leaders so you can grow your business.